We are joined by Alvario Lario, the President-elect for IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Could you tell us why is it that climate finance is in such shortage even today, despite these promises being made since the Paris Agreement? Why is it still coming in such small amounts to Africa? Where does the problem lie? Is it with the global north not being able to accumulate enough? Or is it with Africa that it is not able to attract enough?
Well, I thank you very much and thank you for having me. So for us at IFAD, climate finance has been there for a very long time. Actually, I would say after the current Ukraine war, what we're seeing is that many of the challenges that were there already are coming to the surface, where it's the food systems, where it's climate financing. Indeed, for us, out of the climate finance we do, which is more than 40% of our portfolio, 90% is adaptation to climate change, and that's fundamental for our smallholders. What we are really looking at right now is that many of these climate shocks, what they're doing is actually bringing our smallholders into poverty. So they are losing their assets, they're losing their biodiversity, and they do not have the means to actually be able to support their livelihoods. In terms of the question you asked me vis-a-vis finance, it's true that we're talking about hundreds of billions. There's big climate funds, the Green Climate Fund, the Global Environmental Facility. The finance to a certain extent is there, the institutions are there. I think it's the political will to actually be able to move forward.
Interesting you say that it is political will, so it comes down to also how Africa is trying to create the ecosystem that is conducive of these investments. Certainly. Now in your organization, we were talking about earlier how it has moved after the accreditation that it received. It has moved from just donors to now also engaging the private sector financing for the most vulnerable in Africa. Tell us about that. How is that faring?
So for us at IFAD, we have been an institution that has been lending to the public sector for more than 40 years. However, in the last 3-4 years, we have understood that we need to bring more actors into the picture. And for us, the private sector is fundamental. We have started a new private sector window, and we have been seeing how we can really mainstream it and bring these investments that are actually very much needed. Throughout the value chain, it's fundamental that we bring the big corporations, but we also bring the smallholders and connect the smallholders to the markets and connect them to the big corporations.
What about security for the small-scale farmer? We keep hearing about it, but only 2% of climate adaptation finance is coming from a very small pool as it is to the small-scale farmer, probably less than that. So what about the security of the small-scale farmer? There's so much risk now in the face of climate impact. So what is an organization? How do you look at it? How does IFAD want to strengthen that for the small-scale farmer?
So for us, as you have been mentioned, we have been also working with the African Risk Capacity in bringing all of these issues from the macro level to actually the micro levels. For us, it's very important how to implement it, how to make sure that these smallholders benefit and are able to secure their future. Obviously, the type of challenge is massive, but we have to start somewhere. So for us, microinsurance as well as dealing with the private sector is some of our priorities in my incoming presidency.
Are there some financial instruments that you can say have worked out really well, specifically for sub-Saharan Africa, which might not be suitable for other parts of the global south, but just work really well here?
Well, the challenges, I would say, are very many times are global and at the same time are local. So each country, even in Africa, when they talk about the continent, is very, very different. The geographies of the country, the challenges vis-a-vis climate. I have been meeting several presidents. You have very different type of geographies, hilly countries, really vast extension countries, coast countries that have access to the coast, floods. So it's very, very different in each one. For us, I would say that finance is a very key part. In the past, we used to rely only on donors. Last year, we got a credit rating. We were the first United Nations specialized agency who got a credit rating, and we are also bringing private investors. Indeed, this June, we were the first one who brought also Swedish pension money, Japanese pension funds, and all of this money will be directed to smallholders. So we have to find new ways of really attracting the finance that smallholders need.